Time trial day on La Vuelta. Stage 10, 25.8 kilometres around Valladolid. And the weather, thankfully, an awful lot better than it had been during the transfer that brought us here. Many teams arriving extraordinarily late onto a rest day that turned into a recovery. Well, scoping the course was Sepp Kuss, Remco Evenepoel as world time trial champion, starting off perhaps as the day's favourite, but Filippo Ganna would go off earlier than he. Starting us off, Callum Scottson was first to come off the ramp, and this is what lay ahead of everybody. Very technical course, particularly at the beginning, and then some very long straight roads. One for the purists, really. One climb involved, only 500 metres in length at 7%. And so really this was all about the line, which was bisected by European champion Bissegger in a spectacular time that we thought might well stand as good enough for a top 5. Well, Filippo Ganna set off after around about an hour of racing and started to catch his Minutemen, one after the other after the other. He was absolutely in charge of the course, leading by half a minute over Bissegger at the first split, then 53 seconds, and when he came to the line, his gap had extended even further. And the speed he'd maintained through the course of 56 kilometres an hour is absolutely outstanding. Well, who could get close? João Almeida for UE Team Emirates, who've really transformed themselves into a time trialling unit. He looked very, very good for a top 5. Vingegaard, well, maybe an extraordinarily busy season is just starting to weigh on him a little bit. The Great Dane coming in over a minute and 18 down. 7th place at that point, a shake of the head from him and a shake of a stick perhaps from Roglic. He knew he needed to go extremely strongly, and in fact he was totally committed through some of the corners. This downhill he had to check and double check himself time and time again to avoid the padding. But he did come home, and this looked very good indeed. 36 seconds down on Filippo Ganna, but his comparison really, the important part was the GC. And they were still to come out and on course. Remco Evenepoel, the world champion, setting off down the start ramp. Ganna had been in the hot seat for what seemed like hours, but this was to come down to seconds. That was important. Evenepoel versus Ganna at the intermediate checks. Well, he was down on Ganna, but up on his rivals, and Evenepoel spectacularly second the world champion behind Ganna, but by such a modest margin considering the effort that he's put in throughout this race. Ganna, well, he's had more of a free hand and was able to dedicate himself to today. Sepp Kuss, our leader, set off in the red skin suit off the ramp and was attacking the course. His main worry was whether he would lose time to Marc Soler, who was also extremely committed out there. Kuss starting the day with a 43-second cushion over Soler. Martinez crossed the line, Soler just behind him. Martinez with a very respectable time for such a youngster in the early part of his career. Soler's time not enough to deny Sepp Kuss, and what a story we had throughout the day. Kuss is a man who has never had these demands placed upon his shoulders. Well, he stays in the lead of this race, yes, by a reduced margin, but nobody thought that he would be at the head of the race at this point. On top of the pile, Filippo Ganna, absolutely brilliant, genius at work, taking the day by 16 seconds ahead of Evenepoel. Roglic 36 seconds, João Almeida 50, Vlasov on 52, Ayuso there behind Catania. And Sepp Kuss, time trial of his life, stays in the lead of the race overall. Remco Evenepoel can feel pleased with the way the day went, but his high expectations, well, he may be a little disappointed. He does take over, however, the young riders leaders classification. Kuss leading Soler overall by 26 seconds. Remco Evenepoel a minute 9 down. Champion in waiting? Well, let's wait and see. We climb straight away at Laguna Negra tomorrow. Bit of a hockey stick kind of stage. The big kicker at the very last. Evenepoel will be in the frame. Roglic will be after him. Sepp Kuss still leads. How will it pan out? Nobody knows. That's what makes this race so special.